Hi, this is Todd Olthoff, and welcome to another edition of Screencasts Online. In this second part of a series we are doing on macOS Server, we will take a look at managing your devices using the built-in device management software in macOS Server. With many Apple devices, it can be difficult to manage each device for the various users you may have in your household or in your business. Apple has included powerful mobile device management software in its $20 macOS Server application to help you manage those devices from a web browser, simplifying the process. In this screencast, we will go through the process of configuring the Server application to take full advantage of Profile Manager. We will then set up the service, enroll users and devices, and take a look at some of the things that you can manage through Profile Manager, which will show the power and simplicity of managing your devices this way. But before we dive in with the setup, let's take a look at a few things you want to think through and consider before running Profile Manager in your own situation.